There's a version of your life that never happened, a collision that was rerouted, a conversation that was interrupted before it could destroy you, a door that closed with no explanation, that you grieved for months, that you begged God to reopen, that turned out to be the only thing standing between you and a catastrophe you never saw coming, a meeting that happened by accident, by coincidence, by what you called luck, that changed the entire trajectory of everything that followed. You called those moments fate, you called them fortune, you called them coincidence, divine timing, the universe working in your favor. Some of you called them nothing at all, just the random drift of an indifferent world, occasionally producing outcomes that happened to benefit you. You were wrong, every single time. What you were experiencing, what you have been experiencing your entire life without the language to describe it, was not coincidence. It was not fate working blindly. It was not luck operating without intelligence. It was a protocol, a precise, ancient, divinely engineered operational system working in the unseen dimension that sits directly underneath the surface of every moment of your visible life. It has a name I'm going to give you today, and it has 3 specific mechanisms, 3 documented, biblically verifiable, historically witnessed methods by which a being of immeasurable power and singular divine assignment reaches into the timeline of your life and bends it, redirects it, protects it, alters it in ways that your natural eyes will never be able to fully account for. This is not a metaphor. This is not theological poetry designed to make you feel warm and cared for. This is mechanics. This is the actual operational architecture of the unseen realm, as it interfaces with your daily, waking, breathing, deciding, struggling, failing, and rising life. And by the time I finish walking you through all 3 of these mechanisms, you are going to look back at your own history and see fingerprints you didn't know were there, moments of intervention you filed under the wrong category, turns in your story that suddenly, finally, after all this time, are going to make a kind of sense that nothing else has ever been able to give them. So stay with me, because what I'm about to unseal was never meant to stay hidden from you. Let me lay a foundation before I give you the 3 mechanisms, because without this foundation, the mechanics will feel abstract. And I need them to feel personal. I need them to feel like they are happening to you specifically, because they are. The word I want you to hold on to is assignment. Not just protection, not just presence. Assignment. There's a profound and often overlooked distinction between these words. Protection implies a general coverage, a broad shield applied over a category. Assignment implies something radically different. It implies specificity. It implies that out of all the billions of human beings who have ever drawn breath on this planet, out of all the complexity and chaos and noise of 7 billion simultaneous lives being lived right now on this spinning rock, there is an angelic being that has been given one primary operational directive, and that directive has your name on it, your face, your address, your history, your calling, your enemies, your weaknesses, your future. Jesus said it plainly, so plainly that we almost read past it without feeling the full weight of what he is describing. In Matthew 18, verse 10, he says, speaking about individual human souls, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven." Read that again slowly. Their angels, not shared angels, not a rotation of general purpose celestial servants cycling through assignments. They're angels, possessive, personal, individual. And these angels exist in a perpetual state of face-to-face access to the Father, which means the being assigned to your life has real-time, uninterrupted, direct line communication with the throne of God about the specifics of your situation at every single moment of every single day. Think about what that actually means in terms of intelligence. Your angel knows things about your life that you do not know. It sees threats forming before they arrive. It observes opportunities aligning before you can perceive them. It is aware of conversations happening about you in rooms you'll never enter. It tracks the movement of spiritual forces positioning themselves against your calling, your family, your health, your purpose. And it operates with the full authority of heaven behind every action it takes on your behalf. This is the being operating the protocol I'm about to describe to you. Now let's go deep. Let's go into the first mechanism, the first way your angel alters your timeline. And I want you to be ready, because this one is going to require you to revisit some of the most painful moments of your life from an entirely different vantage point. The first mechanism is obstruction, the strategic, deliberate, sometimes physically enacted blocking of a path that would have ended your story before it could reach its purpose. There is a passage in the book of Numbers, chapter 22, that most people know as the story of Balaam and his donkey. And most people, when they encounter it, focus on the miracle of the talking animal and miss the operational theology that is happening around that miracle. So let me give you the full picture, because the full picture is the one that applies to your life. Balaam is a prophet, a diviner, a man of genuine spiritual perception, hired by the king of Moab to curse riding his donkey toward his destination, toward the act of cursing God's people, and God is angry. And the text says something that I want you to mark carefully. It says that the angel of the Lord stood in the road as an adversary against him. As an adversary. The angelic being did not gently suggest a different route. It did not place a polite spiritual impression in Balaam's heart, nudging him toward reconsideration. It stood in the road, physically, blocking the path, with a drawn sword in its hand. The donkey saw it. Balaam, despite his spiritual gifts, his reputation as a seer, his vaunted perception into the unseen world, could not see it. And the donkey, operating on pure animal instinct, confronted by something immovably present and terrifyingly powerful, veered off the road, pressed against a wall, eventually lay down and refused to move entirely. Balaam's response was to beat the animal 3 times. 3 times he struck the creature that was literally saving his life. 3 times he punished the thing that was responding with more spiritual intelligence than he himself possessed in that moment. He was furious at the obstruction. He couldn't see why the journey was being interrupted. He couldn't understand why what seemed like a clear and open road kept producing resistance. He had a destination, he had a mission, he had a plan, and something was blocking it, and he couldn't see what it was. Let me ask you something. How many times have you beaten the donkey? How many times have you raged against an obstruction, mourned a door that wouldn't open, fought against a resistance that seemed inexplicable and irrational, only to discover later, sometimes much later, that whatever was blocking you from something that would have cost you everything? A relationship that felt like the right path and turned out to be a wall, a job opportunity that fell through and left you devastated and positioned you 3 months later for the thing you were actually built for. A city you tried to move to that kept rejecting you while the place where your destiny was waiting kept presenting itself. A plan you had for your life that heaven kept refusing to sanction, no matter how many times you pushed against it. That wasn't the universe being indifferent. That wasn't God being absent or arbitrary or uninterested in your specific pain. That was the drawn sword. That was your angel, positioned in the road with the full authority of heaven, blocking a path that the one who sees your end from your beginning knew would destroy you. And you couldn't see it. You beat the donkey. You mourned the door. You questioned God's faithfulness. You wondered if you were being punished. And the whole time, the thing protecting you most was the thing you were most frustrated by. Think about the specific obstructions in your history right now, not the ones you're in the middle of. Look back. Look at the things that didn't work out, the paths that closed, the plans that collapsed, the doors that slammed. Think about what was on the other side of some of those doors. Think about where some of those paths actually led for the people who took them. Think about what was waiting in some of those relationships, those cities, those opportunities, those decisions that you couldn't see clearly from where you were standing. Your angel doesn't obstruct your timeline randomly. It doesn't close doors because it is indifferent to your desires or your pain. It obstructs with a sword in its hand, standing between you and something that the God who designed your specific purpose has deemed incompatible with your survival, your calling, or your destiny. The obstruction is not the punishment. The obstruction is the protection. And the day you stop fighting the closed doors long enough to ask what they were protecting you from is the day your gratitude will permanently transform the way you interpret resistance in your life. Now let's go to the second mechanism. And this one is the one that I believe is going to hit the deepest, because this one deals not with what your angel blocks, but with what your angel opens, activates, orchestrates. The second mechanism is convergence, the engineered collision of specific people, moments, information, and opportunities at precise points in your timeline in ways that cannot be explained by natural probability. You need to understand something about the way heaven moves information through the physical world. God rarely shouts. He rarely rearranges the visible order of nature to communicate something he can accomplish through the natural movements of his created order. He is a God of economy, of elegance, of precision. And one of the primary instruments of that precision is the engineered convergence, the meeting that shouldn't have happened, the conversation that changed everything, the book that arrived in your hands the exact week you needed it, the person who appeared in your orbit the exact season you were most broken and most ready to hear what they carried. Go to the book of Acts, chapter 8. Philip the evangelist is in the middle of a massive revival in Samaria. People are being healed. Demons are being cast out. The entire city is responding to the gospel. By every visible, measurable, rational ministry metric, this is exactly where Philip should stay. More people, more fruit, more impact. And then the angel of the Lord speaks to him, tells him to get up and go south toward the road from Jerusalem to Gaza, described specifically in the text as a desert road. No crowds, no city, no visible opportunity. Just a road going through empty land. Philip doesn't negotiate. He gets up and goes. And on that desert road, at precisely the right moment, an Ethiopian official, a man of enormous influence and spiritual hunger, is riding in his chariot reading from the scroll of Isaiah and unable to understand what he's reading. The Spirit tells Philip to go near and join the chariot. Philip runs to it, hears the man reading, asks if he understands. The man says, "How can I, unless someone guides me?" And he invites Philip up into the chariot. One conversation, one meeting on a desert road, one engineered convergence between a man carrying the message and a man positioned to carry it back to an entire nation. Ethiopia's encounter with the gospel, a thread that runs through history all the way to the present day, begins in a chariot on a desert road because an angel told a man to abandon a fruitful place and walk toward an empty one. Your angel engineers convergences. It moves you toward desert roads. It positions you in places that make no rational sense because it can see who is coming the other direction. It whispers, "Go to that coffee shop, take that different route home, don't cancel that appointment, reach out to that person you haven't thought about in 3 years." It creates friction between you and the comfortable, familiar path, because the comfortable, familiar path doesn't lead to the chariot where your future is riding. Think about the convergences in your own history. The person you met completely by accident who became the most important relationship of your life. The conversation you almost didn't have that redirected your entire vocational direction. The moment you were in exactly the wrong place at exactly the right time and something happened that you never could have planned or predicted. The mentor who found you when you weren't looking. The opportunity that came through a connection so unlikely that when you try to trace it back, you can't explain how the chain of events ever started. Those weren't accidents, those were operations. Those were your angel moving in the dimension you can't see, aligning pieces of a puzzle whose full picture only heaven can see, positioning you at the right intersection at the right moment so that the right collision could happen. Convergence is your angel's way of writing the next chapter of your story without you being able to read the outline. And it requires trust. It requires willingness to go where you're sent, even when the destination looks like a desert road, even when the logic of staying put seems overwhelming, even when everyone around you thinks the movement makes no sense. The chariot is on the road. And your angel knows exactly where the road is. But before I give you the third mechanism, I have to pause here. Because if you have been watching this and finding yourself moved, finding something in this message landing in a way that feels less like information and more like revelation, I want to ask you to do one thing right now. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. And I'm not asking you to do that for a number on a screen. I'm asking you to do it because right now, while you're watching this, there is someone who has been on the edge of completely walking away from their faith. Someone whose timeline is at a critical inflection point. Someone whose angel is fighting for their destiny while they are sitting in confusion, in pain, in the aftermath of a convergence they don't yet understand. And the only way this message gets to that person is if you tell the system it's worth sending further. So be part of the mission. Be part of the reason the message reaches the person it was meant for. Like and subscribe right now. Because this is bigger than a channel. This is bigger than an algorithm. This is about a message that carries life, finding the person who needs it most. Now, the third mechanism, and this is the one that is going to require the most from you. Not intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, because the third mechanism is the one that operates closest to the center of who you are. It doesn't deal with the path you're on or the people you meet. It deals with the most intimate, private, sacred territory in your entire existence. The third mechanism is intercession. The standing of your angel before heaven on your behalf, in the specific gaps of your life where your own prayer has run dry. There is something in the book of Revelation, chapter 8, that most readers skim past because they're looking for the dramatic seals and trumpets, and they miss one of the most tender and profound images in the entire canon. John sees an angel standing at the altar, holding a golden censer, and the text says that a great quantity of incense was given to this angel, and that the angel offered it with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of the saints, went up before God from the angel's hand. Read that image carefully, sit in it. The prayers of the saints, the prayers of people, broken, incomplete, sometimes inarticulate, sometimes barely more than a groan or a sob in the dark. Prayers offered from weakness, from confusion, from the ragged edge of faith being held together by nothing but the sheer will to keep reaching. Those prayers are gathered. They're not left scattered and fragmented and lost in the atmosphere. They're gathered. And they are mixed with incense, and the intercession of an angelic being adds its own weight, its own purity, its own authority to what you were barely able to articulate. And the combination, your trembling faith plus the angel's ministry before the throne, rises together before God as a single, unified, impossible to ignore fragrance. Your prayers are not as weak as they feel. Your prayers, when they leave your mouth in the middle of the night when you can barely find the words, don't arrive at heaven's door in the same broken state they left your lips. Something is added to them on the way. Something intercedes with them. something amplifies them. Your angel is not just a fighter in the field, it is also an intercessor at the altar. And the combination of your voice and your angel's ministry before the throne is more powerful than anything the enemy has brought against your life. Think about the times you prayed in genuine desperation, the moments you couldn't form a proper prayer, and all you could manage was a name, Jesus, or feeling too deep for words. Think about those moments and now understand that those weren't your weakest prayers. Those were sometimes your most effective ones. Because in the moments when your prayer was nothing but raw need, when all the theological framing and the careful language fell away, and you were just a person desperately reaching for God, your angel was there at the altar mixing that raw, naked cry with holy intercession, and presenting it before the throne of the Almighty with the full weight of heaven's authority behind it. The third mechanism also operates in the area of intervention in your decision-making at moments of maximum consequence. Let me walk you to the Garden of Gethsemane for a moment, because there is something in that scene that almost never gets the attention it deserves. Jesus is in the most profound agony of his earthly existence. He is on his face. He is sweating blood. The weight of every sin that has ever been committed or will ever be committed is descending onto his being, and it is crushing. And he prays in absolute anguish, the most honest prayer ever recorded. Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And what happens immediately after that prayer? The text in Luke says, "Then an angel appeared to him from heaven, strengthening him, not removing the cup, not explaining the suffering, not resolving the agony with information or theology, strengthening him. In the moment when the Son of God was at the outer limit of what humanity can bear, an angel came and added something to his capacity to keep going, to keep choosing, to keep walking toward the cross. If an angel was sent to strengthen Jesus in the garden, how much more does your angel operate in the critical decision moments of your life? The moments when you are standing at the edge of a choice that will alter your timeline, when the weight of what is required feels beyond your current capacity to carry, when the right path is also the hardest path, and you're not sure you have what it takes to choose it. In those moments, the third mechanism activates. Your angel moves into a mode of direct personal fortification. It adds something to your internal capacity. It doesn't make the choice for you. It never violates your will, but it strengthens you in the moment of choosing so that what God has purposed for your life has the best possible chance of being embraced by the person it was designed for. And this is where I have to pivot with you. Because everything I've described, the obstruction, the convergence, the intercession, all of it, every single mechanism of the guardian protocol, every operation your angel executes on your behalf, every closed door, every engineered meeting, every prayer amplified before the throne, every moment of fortification in the critical hour, all of it exists in service to a single purpose. Not your comfort, not your success by the world's measurement, not your prosperity or your ease or your safety in the shallow sense of never experiencing pain. The purpose is this, that you would arrive at the fullness of who God designed you to be, walking in the fullness of the relationship God designed you to have with him, carrying the fullness of the calling God placed inside you before the foundations of the world were laid. All of it, every mechanism of the protocol, it points there, to that, to you, whole and known and purposeful and alive in the deepest possible sense of that word, in relationship with the God who commissioned the entire operation in the first place. And here's where I need to be absolutely honest with you. The way a person who genuinely cares about your future is honest, even when it's uncomfortable. You can know everything I've told you today. You can walk away from this video with a rich, detailed, theologically grounded understanding of how guardian angels operate in the unseen dimension. You can quote the passage from Daniel. You can cite the angel in Gethsemane. You can feel genuinely moved by the image of your prayers rising as incense before the throne. And if you stop there, if you file all of this under fascinating spiritual knowledge and return to the life you were living without letting it change the fundamental orientation of your heart, you will have missed the entire point, not just of this video, of the protocol itself, because the Guardian Protocol was never designed as a service, it was designed as a pathway. The angel is not the destination. The angel is the escort. The escort exists to bring you to the King. Every obstruction cleared, every convergence engineered, every prayer amplified and presented before the throne, it is all moving you toward a singular encounter. The encounter with Jesus Christ that transforms not just your circumstances, but your identity. That changes not just your timeline, but your eternal destination. Let me tell you what the protocol cannot do. It cannot save you. It can protect your timeline. It can alter your circumstances. It can stand in the road between you and catastrophe with a drawn sword. But the one thing that the most powerful angelic being in the created order cannot do for you is make the choice to surrender your life to Jesus Christ. That choice belongs entirely and exclusively to you, and it is, by a measurable distance, the most timeline-altering decision available to any human being who has ever lived. Because here is the mathematics of eternity that I need to speak plainly. Your timeline doesn't end at the grave. What happens on this side of death determines everything about what happens on the other side. And the only bridge between this side and the eternal life that God designed you to live, the only bridge that spans the gap created by every wrong choice, every failure, every sin, every wound you've caused, and every wound you've received, that bridge has a name. And his name is Jesus Christ. He is not a religious option. He is not one spiritual path among many equally valid paths. He said so himself. He said, I am the way. Not a way. Not the best of several ways. The way. The singular, irreplaceable, profoundly personal bridge between where you are and where you were always supposed to be. He came from the same heaven where your angel stands. He left the throne room where your prayers rise as incense. He stepped into time and into flesh and into suffering that dwarfed anything you have ever experienced. And he did it specifically, personally, individually for you. Not for humanity as an abstract category. For you. With your name. With your history. Knowing every chapter of your story before he took the first step toward Calvary. He took the obstruction that should have been yours. He walked into the convergence of every sin that has ever separated a human soul from God and absorbed it completely. He interceded not from a position of comfort, but from a cross. And the prayer he prayed in the most agonizing moment of that intercession was not for his own relief, it was for yours. Father, forgive them. You, me, all of us. Every one of us who has ever stood in need of a bridge we could never build ourselves. And he rose. He rose from the grave on the third day with all authority in heaven and on earth. The very authority under which your angel operates. The authority that commissioned the protocol. The authority that stands behind every obstruction, every convergence, every act of intercession that has been working in the unseen dimension of your life since before you were born. And right now, in this moment, he is not distant. He is not waiting for you to get your life in order before he'll receive you. He is not cataloging your failures and holding them against the threshold of his presence. He said, come to me, not after you're ready, not after you've earned the right, not after the wound heals and the doubt clears and the theology resolves. Come, now, as you are, in the middle of the unanswered questions and the unresolved pain and the uncertainty about what comes next. Come. I want to ask you to do something right now that is going to feel simple, and that is, in reality, the most significant act available to you in this moment. In the comments below this video, I want you to type 5 words. 5 words that are not just a statement, but a declaration. Not just a declaration, but a convergence. The most important convergence your angel has ever been part of engineering. 5 words that the entire unseen realm will register. That your angel, standing in perpetual audience before the face of the Father, will witness and rejoice over. Type, I accept Jesus Christ as Lord. Type it right now, not when you finish watching, not when you've thought about it more. Now, because the protocol brought you here. The obstruction that blocked other paths led you to this screen. The convergence that put this video in front of you at this specific moment of your life was not random, and it was not accidental. The intercession that has been rising on your behalf, the prayers that were offered for you by people who don't even know your name but felt the prompting to pray for someone they'd never meet, brought you to this moment. And if you already know him, if you walked into this video with your hand already in his, then type something else. Type, the protocol is real and I trust him. Because someone watching needs to see that declaration from a real person who has been through the fire of the unseen war and who is still standing, still trusting, still surrendered. The Guardian Protocol is not unsealed so that you can be impressed by angels. It is unsealed so that you can be overwhelmed by the love of the God who commissioned them, who looks at your specific, particular, irreplaceable life and says, it is worth an army, worth a drawn sword in the road, worth an engineered meeting on a desert highway, worth incense rising before the eternal throne, worth a cross. You were never unprotected. You were never abandoned. You were never an afterthought in the economy of heaven. From before the foundation of the world, a protocol was written with your name in it, and the author of that protocol is standing at the door of your heart right now, knocking, with the same patience and the same fierce love that has been governing every moment of your story since before you could speak your own name. Open the door. The protocol leads here. Every step of it leads here. To this moment, to this choice, to this name. Jesus. And he is enough.